morning. They come from 5 in the morning from 9 a.m. Most of them are gone by 9 o'clock, but we still have an influx of them after that. And that's where the 106, 7 warnings that we do have comes into play. And the 9 written warnings from the defenders would come back to the parking and have actually let their dogs loose after 1 o'clock. So we usually set like 2 or 3 warnings, then you get a written.
Great. One of the other suggestions was that to have your dog off leash, it has to be licensed. So licensed dogs are allowed off leash between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
How many of those violations were for unlicensed dogs?
None of them have produced licenses, and many have refused to actually give us names. You know, so sometimes we'll put a description down, or I'll write it on my calendar how many of my dogs have actually been spoken about or spoken to people. So a lot of times we don't get to give the actual written warning. So the written warning would probably be higher if people did give the names, or if they did have a license for a dog.
And so our attorney or corporation counsel, there is no additional liability with this policy. If this is the City of Bryan Corporation Counsel. If she felt that we were taking on additional liability with this, she would have told us she doesn't believe there's any additional liability.
Maybe not in premium, respectfully. Yeah.
Joe, thanks very much.
I
Mayor
just
Feinstein,
wanna-
please.
Basically, there's been a course of dealing where dogs have been allowed in the park over the years, but there's no written formal policy of the Rye-Town Parks Commission, right up until now. Correct?
I think there was a document that was produced that said, not the one now, but the old one, right?
The old
Well,
one.
it sounds to me, I find that so
I'm
much.
sorry.
Please, Bill.
I don't know if that was given to me when I started in 2008. I'm not really sure if that was ever voted on by the...
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
I don't really
Do
know.
we know the answer to that?
I think, my sense is, Mayor Feinstein, that so much of government is inertia, right? So I think that there was a practice in the park,
Right,
that-
it became a regular...
exact phenomenon.
This is an issue that we deal with in Rybrook, and I've been grappling with this because I've been fairly consistent in Rybrook as far as what the policy is. We have a no leash in the parks in Rybrook, and we try to enforce it. There have been many residents who have come before us who want a dog park. Unfortunately, at least in the parks in Rybrook, we haven't been able to do it because it's surrounded by residential areas, and we think that's unfair. And what was stated before, and the concern that I have, if this is really codified and gets out there, you're going to have potential influx from different areas because
It's the only game in town for that.
it's the only game in town. And I would love to accommodate the dog owners because I know how passionate I do not have a dog, but I have friends who have dogs and I'm around dogs all the time. But I couldn't vote because I realized that I'd be inconsistent in my voting because I've been on the record within my own municipality.
Yeah. Mayor Bill, did you want to?
So.
Sure. It's interesting because we have a practice, basically, that's been going on for years, it sounds, and it seems that that part of the exercise isn't really a big part of the problem, right? But we obviously have a safety issue, and it sounds legitimate. I mean, people come up here saying they're biting. At the same time, people at the state here state there's that all dogs must be leashed law. And they probably thought about that a lot longer than certainly I did. So really and I have to think long and hard, in other words, before I decide to trump state law at the local level and potentially endanger citizens, because dogs don't speak English, and we're not talking about a pendant area. Now, there's a lot of people who are very close friends who are probably going to get mad at me for where I'm angling with this. But, at the end of the day, I think that for dogs to be off the leash, I think they should be contained. My understanding is the direction that we're talking about here, they really can't be reasonably contained. And maybe that's not a good idea for us to vote to trump state law to let them just run free. And while it may not increase our insurance premium, really when you think about things that go bump in the night, I really do think it increases the risk posture, certainly when you're going against state law. And you're hearing a record being made, basically, right, that things have happened. That said, the problem doesn't seem to exist before 9 o'clock. So if we were to not change the law to formalize the policy about dog walking, and if we were to ask Rye City have their guys patrol our parks or deputize our guys or whatever the best solution for some enforcement with teeth, right, for this after crowd. And maybe if this dog warden starts at 9 o'clock, maybe that's a way we can kind of jump, go slowly to kind of, we have to improve the enforcement, it sounds. It's irresponsible not to, but that really sounds like a problem at 9 o'clock. I agree with Mayor Feinstein. Now, if we want to pen the dogs, right? People
Well,
come
then
to me
that's
as Mayor
a-
of Portchester.
Sure.
It's a problem to us, right? And
Right.
maybe we want to chip in together as
I was just
municipalities.
going to
each
say
build a
that
corner
it
of a
may be,
fence.
well, I was just going to say maybe there is an area that there's a dog park, but I have to be aware, even if we fenced it in and decided to do that, I don't know if we would, obviously the one thing you have to be concerned with is as long as people know that there's a delineated space, you may have an additional, the influx. And then I say to myself, is that good for the residents surrounding the park? We have to be very much aware of what the impacts are to them as well.
Yeah, but the local use with the 5 a.m., I'm not sure like people are going to come, 20 miles to get there. So,
You would think, actually,
but you
some
never
of
know,
the
because-
conversations when people came to our meetings who did not live in Rybrook, who wanted a dog park, but that's a different
Other
question.
comments?
Sure, thank you Supervisor Carvin, and I think you said it right at the top of these comments, which is a number of impassioned pleas have been made from both sides. And I think as so many things in government, when you sit up here on this side of the table, you do try to see it from both sides, and I truly do. Linda, you particularly, I hear your comments, and it's hard to disagree with them. And you're very cogent, you're very intelligent, and you lay it forth very well. But at the end of the day, I just think there needs to be some sort of balancing test. And I think what we're talking here is not allowing dogs to be in the park all hours of all days. I think that we're allowing it, but we may allow it, maybe we won't allow it. But if we're going to allow it, we're going to allow it and then regulate it. And regulating it means a number of things. One, limiting the area where the dogs are allowed. And I see the map, and it covers a pretty wide expanse of the park, and it's possible that if we allow it, maybe we should redefine those boundaries. Another way to regulate it is to actually enforce the cutoff time of 9 o'clock. And Joe, I am somewhat shocked that there is so much noncompliance, and it requires you and your team to issue so many written warnings. I think you have pretty high patience, because I think that I wouldn't have given so many warnings. It could be that in order to get the message, we need to strictly enforce after 9 o'clock or 9:30, whatever the time is going to be. Because time is another way you regulate it. And I have been told that maybe people stay away from the park in the 9 a.m. hour because they don't want to deal with the dogs. That could be, I don't know. But another way of looking at it is, maybe there aren't as many people who want to use the park at that hour, and therefore it is the appropriate or the best time of day for it to happen. I kind of look at it this a little bit like the dog owners being a special user group, kind of like volleyball, Bishop, where we allow a group to come in and take over an area of the park for a fee for a certain amount of time. And it's a little bit apples and oranges, because volleyball and dogs are not the same thing, but it's a similar concept. So therefore, another way to regulate it, if we're going to allow it, may be have them pay. And we could do differential pricing, to discourage. We spike the dogs. Is that what you said? No.
At least the volleyball don't bite.
Yes, right. That's true. But you also can't use the beach when the volleyballers are there, and maybe you just can't use an area of the park when the dogs are there. Again, I remember I prefaced my comments with, I see it from both sides. I'm trying to, the best I can, strike a balance as I see right. And Mayor Feinstein, regarding your comment, if we don't want people coming in from all corners of the earth, we should, I think, have differential pricing, just like we do for the parking, but for the dogs. And Bill, you know, we've had success with the permits, right? And maybe we need to offer a permit category for the dogs, for the owners of the dogs, so that they can use the park during that period of time. And I think maybe to address even the liability, Dennis, perhaps, you know, as part of the registration process and the payment process, we get all of the users to sign a waiver and say, if my dog bites anyone, I'm on the hook. Not the right time. Well, I'm trying to be creative. I'm trying to listen to all the concerns and incorporate them and deal with them. It's not a perfect solution, but anyway. So where I come out is I am in favor of allowing the dogs to be off leash at this time with the regulations that I suggested, and that's where I'm at.
Sorry, Commissioner Sonich.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that we're having this conversation because it reminds me of the conversation that this commission had with the community at large regarding parking, conditions in the park, and it's a parking lot, out of park. And we came to a resolution, a compromise, if you will. I think this is where we may not have the answers that make the most sense to everybody, but I think that as this commission adopts a policy today, we can change that policy tomorrow. And I don't want to be overreactionary to or play down the issue of safety, because that is a paramount concern. You know, as I'm hearing all the conversations, I'm wondering, do we limit or do we have a prohibition of a type of dog? Do we have a prohibition against aggressive dogs versus non-aggressive dogs? I don't know enough about it. So my point is if staff is, we need information. We need to know and we're tracking it now. I think the policy speaks for itself. We have an open policy from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. But that might be something to change. If we have enough information to say to that this commission can say it's not worth the off-leash law to continue or policy to continue, and it's based upon factual information, then I think we'll make that. I think it's important that any policy that this commission adopts is based upon facts and figures and not emotion, because we can't compromise public safety. Is it working? I don't know. I'm relying on staff people to say it's okay. It's not okay. Have there been dog fights between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 a.m.? Joe's saying no. Have there been people who have abused the privileges of having the leash and going onto the beach? Are they going to the undesignated areas? That's more what I'm looking to know, is that even though it's a 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. that allows the dogs off the leash, are they outside the boundaries? They are outside the boundaries. So you can go up there, yeah. So my question is, what do you think? Is there an abuse to what is being permitted under the policy now? And does that policy mean anything?
We've had incidents of people on the beach with dogs. One that verbally abused one of our rangers. I mean, we've got...
I don't want to go into the details of that.
We've also had incidents where some dogs after 9 o'clock have come down into the people area. You know, and they have been run loose, and that's where most of our warnings stem from.
It becomes a full-time job. I see it as an administrative nightmare to make this policy work. And I think the people of the community that use this for the open, having the leash off the dogs at those hours have to be cognizant is that, it doesn't take many bad apples to have the policy change. I firmly believe that cooperation of everybody who uses it is paramount. And a few bad apples may actually make the policy change. So I'm flexible either way. If it's working and there's no problem, then it's fine. If it's not working, then we have to, accept the change.
If it's okay, I'd like to give some views, and then I mean, everybody here is conflicted, obviously, and I know Ms. Van Dyke, you and your group have been very supportive of the park and very supportive of us, and I'd very much like to accommodate your group, but I have to say, we made a very much of a concerted decision to change the parking policy. One of the important components of that was safety. And I'm sorry, I can't in my heart of hearts, I think if we're going to err, at least I want to err on the side of safety. I just, you know, I'm not gonna look at the mother who's had her kid, and then actually, you know, maybe I'm scarred, because my niece had her face chopped to pieces by a dog, you know, so maybe I'm a little bit sensitive to that. And I'm just, if we're gonna, you know, I just don't understand why we're the only park in the whole of the town of Rye and Rye City to allow dogs off leash. And potentially, as Mayor Pillis told me, the whole New York State. It's inconsistent with the
Well,
it's inconsistent with the law. So Mayor Pilla, well, certainly the Village of Rye Brook policy, as I understand it, is on leash. Mayor Pilla, is that the same in Portchester, is it on leash?
You know, technically, we don't even allow dogs in our parks. We don't even allow dogs in our parks, so really, you know, I think, you know, having leash dogs in the park is a privilege, is a really big privilege in and of itself.
Well, that's where I'm
You
sort
get
of,
pretty long leashes too.
and that's what I'm thinking, is we're not talking about keeping dogs out. No one here is suggesting we keep dogs out. We're simply saying we keep dogs on leash. Quite frankly, Ms. Van Dyke, if everybody was just like you and your group, then there'd never be a problem. The problem is you have 107 people that are basically taking advantage of the good nature. And I think I share Mayor Feinstein's concern about the influx. So quite frankly, I think we need to put it to a vote tonight. You know, and I don't see how I can vote but to change the policy such that the dogs have to stay on leash at all times, 24/7.
I have one more thing that I just wanted to add. I was very dismayed. This has been going on for a while, and there's been a dialogue, and there's actually been public hearings before the City of Rye. You know that at the time that this is being discussed, and there may be some people who wanted to go forth and to be codified, and to know there have been so many violations in a very short period of time, it really dismays me, especially when it's been out there in the public, you know, the abuse. And I know not everyone abuses it. But here's the question. I think that the way it is right now, I can't vote in favor of it. But something I said before, is this an area that we want to think about having some sort of dog park? And I'm not saying it's in the City of Rye, and it would result in all the same problems of potential influx and the like. But I just throw that out. I'm not advocating one way or the other. That would be a discussion. But I cannot vote the way it is right now without having it delineated and demarcated, and also the burden that it places on staff and the potential liability. Yeah.
Would it be possible?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just a little confused by what's going on, and thank you. I understand there have been a lot of violations after the hours, but I'm not sure why we're being, because we were leaving at 9 o'clock. 9 a.m., that's what the new, you know, let's give it a try. We're gone. So
Their group does.
I'm not sure why
But
we're being
others don't.
asked.
Others
Well,
don't.
but
They're
how?
very good. They come in the morning, they keep their dogs up on the top of the hill. They usually, you know, leave by 9 o'clock. I mean, most of them, I mean, it's the people that come in after their group.
Which we're like, great, ticket them, raise the money for whatever you need to do, but why we're being asked to answer for people who have not gone by what the rules are is what's confusing to me. You know, I know that we leave, so I don't know how I could answer for the people who aren't doing that. Does that make sense? Sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We've got an 8 o'clock hard close. We've got a lot of business to cover.
Table?
No, I don't want to table. I want to put it to vote tonight. Sorry, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Clint Fry. I live on Rye Beach Avenue. I don't think you can have two laws. You can't have it both ways. They need to be on leash, period. You can't have a law for 3 or 4 hours of the day and then another law for the rest. It won't work, Joe. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Okay, unless, is there any other commissioner who wanted to say, I'm going to bring this to a close. Any commissioners who want to say any other comments?
Just one last question. Again, there's two issues here, right? One is deciding as a policy whether we formally allow dogs to be off a leash, right? And don't change the state law, but the dog catcher doesn't start at 9. If someone comes in between 5, right? Because it's impractical for us to have somebody here 24 hours a day. So we have somebody when there's a problem, right? If the dog catcher comes at 9 o'clock and gets everybody who's off a leash from there, but if people came before, there's no reports of incidents before, we don't know. I'd say have.
We don't really write.
Oh, okay, so, all right,
Sorry,
okay, Mr. Noto, basically, so what I want to table is a resolution that clarifies the Rye-Town Park policy to say that any dogs in the park need to be on a leash no matter what the time. Can I get a motion to put that resolution before the board as described?
Leash at all times?
Leash at all times.
I'll move that.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Noir, would you take the roll, please?
All right, yeah. And Mayor French?
No.
Mayor Pilla?
Yes.
Mayor Feinstein?
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro?
I'm not prepared to make a decision, so I don't have a vote at this time.
So abstain.
And Commissioner Sack?
No.
All right, that's...
Well, wait, what about me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
Point of
Sorry.
clarification, Mr. Supervisor, point of clarification. Did we vote to bring a resolution, no leash resolution before the board to vote, or is this the action for policy period?
Well, sorry, so I'm asking that we table a resolution. So if you're saying, you suggested we need 2 votes, 1 vote?
No, I'm asking if what we just voted for was to bring back a resolution that was
No, what we voted just voted on was whether or not dogs have to be on a leash.
Okay, that was actually enacted in the policy. It would have changed my vote either way, but I wasn't sure if you were bringing back a formal resolution.
So the motion passes.
The motion passes 3-2 with 1 abstention.
Right, and so staff, obviously, we need to get the message out. Please produce flyers, explain the new policy. I'm sorry, I understand certainly desire it, especially I can understand how saddening it is for people that have really worked hard to respect.
May I ask a question before?
Well, no, sorry, we'll have to. Okay, we got a lot of. We're going to bring the automated parking discussion forward. We got.
I'll keep it quick.
Okay.
Thanks. The Rye-Town Park Commission received a bid back from one vendor.
Paul, this is important.
Yeah, we had a speaker who's still in the audience.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't get.
That's all right, Michael.
From the company.
Precision Technology?
Precision Technology. Precision Technology submitted an RFI, a request for information, to the Rye-Town Park Commission through its agent, Bishop Nwanek, which was a whole host of questions regarding clarification questions, if you will, so that they would be better prepared to put a bid together and competitively bid on the project. But I think before the attorney answered the question as to whether we need to rebid it, we did receive one bid, and I think the question that I would have at the board before we decide on a rebid is whether or not there's a commitment to move forward based upon the numbers that we did receive. We have a turnkey, we have 3 bids, and obviously I'll go to the turnkey bid, which is all-inclusive of site development work, electrical, et cetera, with all of the components needed to fully automate the park entry and the beach entry. Looking for the page number. And that was around, I believe it was $258,000 as a turnkey operation, $268,091. So I think there's a philosophical question as to whether the commission is prepared to move forward on the question based upon the financial obligation to have the project, even contemplated. So we have a $268,000 bid. That is a turnkey. One way or another, whether we do it or a contractor does it, let's just say the range is somewhere within that number for the automation. And I wish Mr. Dan's not here, Matheson, right?
He's out of town.
He's out of town? So we did have a good committee of the Rye-Town, City of Rye on this as well. So.
Have you had a chance to meet with the committee, Commissioner Salanitro?
Well, the specifications were given to Dan we got back. Again, highlighting the fact that there was an RFI that, whether it's late, it's a legal question more than anything else, whether we go out to bid, but it becomes a moot issue if the commission doesn't have a commitment to even spend this kind of money. So I think the financing of it is
Can you
important.
remind me what the original proposal was from cash? If I remember,
Well,
it was a lot less, wasn't it?
118,000,
Yeah.
but it did not include any of the construction-related costs.
Yeah.
So how did they,
So now that 118,000, which was the baseline cost, has morphed into 138,000, subject to the meeting of the committee and the additional, there was some additional hardware, there was some additional gates put in and things of that nature, so it raised that baseline bid.
Sorry, just, it was 118.
That was the original.
We're looking at the number is 268 right here.
Well, that's turnkey. That's total and complete, and they take care of everything. All we do is sign a check.
The RFP that we received to all the commission members and Mayor Pillar, we worked on this, was, there was alternatives to the RFP itself, which you had to add numbers to it. So the base RFP, request for proposal, needed, you had to add numbers. So what we decided to do as a commission was to develop a bid specification that was inclusive of all, there was no hidden cost. And we broke it up into three aspects of the contract. And the last one was, item 3 was a turnkey. In other words, we don't want to touch anything. We want you to do everything. Give us a job. Give us a product that complies with all of our needs. That number is a good number to go by because whether we go with all the equipment and do the work ourselves, we're probably going to be close to that anyway. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that the reality is that we're looking at between 225 to 275.
All right. And sorry, we put this back out to bid?
This was the bid received on June 3rd.
Correct.
Okay.
That was the bid date.
This gentleman from Precision Technologies tried to approach us and get clarification prior to the June 3rd?
On Thursday prior
That's
to
correct.
June 3rd. Okay.
June 3rd was a Monday. June 3rd was a Monday. The RFI came in on Thursday afternoon.
So, but that's,
June 3rd is a Friday.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
June 3rd is a Friday?
Yeah.
because we're back on the 5th.
Council was due June 6th.
Yeah, I think June 6th is, it may be the right day.
So, in any case, how many people responded to the June 3rd?
One.
Okay. And this gentleman wanted to respond, is that what happened, and we contacted him?
He was working on a proposal, and he had contacted us, and you know, the problem is the RFI came in so late at that particular point, it was just impossible for us to be able to turn it
Well, so
around.
Mr. Noto, the gentleman here is from Precision Technologies, maybe want to come up, maybe you tell us. So he basically wants to still be able to, I guess, he's still trying to bid, is that
But
what
you
you
can't
want
do
to
it any longer. It's not a question of whether he wants to bid. The question is whether we should have allowed the bids to be postponed until the RFI was submitted to
Or
all
cancel
potential
the
bidders.
bid now.
Yeah, we didn't put the brakes on the bid date. We could have sent out an addenda for the bid to be delayed. And the question is whether we were fair, whether it was a fair thing not to do that, or was it unfair? Should we have answered the RFI is the question. But I didn't want to get to that question until the commission decided that this is too much money or it's within the budget that we can afford to do.
Mr. Salinicho is 100% correct. You just answered your question. So technically, you can reject the bid and rebid it. The one bidder did meet the legal requirements of the bid. You're not under any legal obligation to reject the bid or to permit another bidder to submit a late bid. It's entirely up to the committee.
But also, it has to be spent, the bid only is held for 60 days though, right?
I think this is 90.
90 days.
I think you're right.
So, be ready to put the money in 90 days.
Well,
Yeah,
we
sure,
don't,
yes, exactly right. I mean, you'll have, I think Mr. Salinicho's original question about whether or not the commission is going to invest in this in the first place is probably the more threshold question as to whether or not, because you could also rebid, hoping you get better numbers. I mean, that's another possibility.
Well, and that's the issue, for us to make a determination about whether or not we're willing to spend the money. If there's a potential bidder out there who may come in less money and potentially material less, and my question is, yeah, maybe the request for information came in very late, but the fact it didn't